Introduction. Survey any of your friends and ask them what they're really looking for in a significant other. Sure enough, you'll get a mix of predictable following: great career, loving family, amazing parenting instincts, kind, considerate, matching hobbies, interesting and attractive. The standard. We all know multiple people that fit these criteria. So does that mean that we're open to all of them as a life partner? Doubtful. Though some of us undoubtedly take the shotgun approach. So the age-old question is raised. What makes us fall in love with one person versus another? All the slow jams in the world never seem to be able to figure this out. But maybe it's because the answer is a bit of a nebulous construct. A spark, a click, a deep gut feeling of being drawn to someone, a certain je ne sais quoi. It's really not quantifiable outside of just deeming it chemistry. But take The Bachelor, for instance. For those of you that are unfamiliar with it, the premise of the show is that there is one man who goes on dates with 25 amazingly attractive women. At the show's conclusion, which is a mere 6 weeks from the initial meeting, he invariably ends up proposing to one of them. That's a life-changing decision. If even 1/10 of the emotional depth they developed on the show is real, that's still a lot of real chemistry and passion that cannot simply be explained away by the pressurized television and filming atmosphere. I systematically analyzed these shows and broke down the commonalities of what drove chemistry and such intense feelings of love in short periods of time. Does being ridiculously handsome, being billed as the Bachelor, and a sense of competition amongst the other participants help? Perhaps. But beyond that, you'll be shocked at what really gets it done. As it turns out, many of these elements are firmly rooted in the biological basis of love theory. In other words, what love does to our brains, bodies, and emotions. The rest just comes from smart planning and execution. Dating shows exploit all of the above and veritably force-feed emotions into people. Chapter 1. The biological basis of love. It's helpful to first go over some of the physiological functions we're trying to take advantage of. The biology itself isn't the focus of this book, so I'm going to keep this section short and to the point. For our purposes of cultivating attraction and chemistry, there are 3 main pathways at work, each of which I'll talk about briefly below. At their root, they are all simply biological functions which, with classical conditioning and association and clever planning, can be simulated and increased. Something which keeps many men and women hopeful is the fact that there's someone on the planet for everybody. This might be true based on the kind of person you're searching for and what you would like to possess with this particular person. So, in fact, it's this part that determines if there's a match for everybody on the planet that desires one. Everything comes down to what you would like to possess with someone else. The simplest of connections may be the one-night stand. Nearly any decent-looking person can score one of these fairly easily. Usually these happen because a person possesses an itch that should be scratched. You get all dressed up, striking a few of the more crowded and popular meat markets. This is where you'll find others exactly like you, which are searching for individuals' couple of minutes or couple of hours of physical closeness with another person. This really is quite simple to create happen. The downside from it is the fact that for most people it works out for, it becomes underfulfilling. Actually, it might only make the void within you that rather more lonely. For other people, though, it will do the trick until the next time the itch begins. The following kind of connection that might be the easiest to obtain may be the person for dating and casual sex. That one is preferable to the main one evening stand, but doesn't need a commitment from either party. They are a couple that like many of the same things and therefore are drawn to each other sexually. Although this may seem nearly the same as the start of a genuine relationship, it may really be the effect of a good friendship. This really is all people require to become happy? Then, there's the connection in which a couple have been in love and live long with no intentions of having married. These couples could be either monogamous or have a wide open style relationship. This kind of relationship is gaining popularity in recent occasions for a lot of reasons. Then, there's the standard relationship in which a couple is deeply in love with one another and select to follow along with the approach of marriage. This relationship is much harder to have compared to others because it's more dangerous. Inside a marriage, a couple is committing to one another and making some pretty strong commitments to one another along the way. They're promising not to get along with other people and also to stay together in good occasions and bad occasions until dying parts them. This is actually the ultimate objective of many men and women, and it is the toughest to achieve, yet it is possible. One further kind of relationship, and never too common, may be the trial relationship. A ceremony is carried out that binds a few together for any certain period of time, usually 12 months. If, in the finish of this time, they would like to enter a conventional marriage, then that's what's going to happen. If they've made the decision it isn't the things they wanted, they are able to split up quietly. So overall, there just might be someone for everybody on the planet. Chapter 2. The Cuddle Hormone. You may have heard of this one. Oxytocin is known as the cuddle hormone because, in general, it's released with more skin-to-skin contact you have with someone. It's also released in various social situations where people are relaxed and enjoying themselves. And when is it released the most? Directly after orgasm. It causes feelings of trust and overall attachment to another person, and is said to be addictive. Your goal should obviously be to increase the release of oxytocin. If you've ever been accused of having no chemistry with someone, look no further than lack of oxytocin. Chapter 3. Getting Head. Neurotransmitters are chemicals in the brain that are released in various ratios depending on the stimuli that the person is exposed to. There are 4 main ones, but the ones we are focusing on are dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is implicated in cocaine use. It is released by our favorite activities: anticipation, overcoming challenging situations, novel situations, and an increased heart rate. It provides intense rushes of euphoric pleasure, a phrase that accurately describes the roller coaster of the early stages of any relationship. Serotonin is implicated in many of the same causes and effects, but the main distinction is that when serotonin levels drop, people engage in obsessive thinking and ideation. Again, a phrase that accurately describes the dynamic early relationships. Your goal should be to increase the release of dopamine and decrease the release of serotonin. Chapter 4. What are you looking for? For many people, it's important to experience an excellent relationship inside their lives. This relationship should be solid along with significant if it's going to help you maintain an optimistic attitude and efficient. It's this mention of that someone special that gives you comfort as it's needed, intellectual and mental stimulation when you want it, as well as the return of love that you just offer. An excellent relationship enables you to have your needs met and enables you to satisfy the needs for your partner. Because of this, it's essential that there is a being careful of relationship within your existence. It's going an extended approach to stopping you moving forward psychologically as well. The way you talk with your mate could affect the amount of stress and anger you carry around together with you. This may also affect how happy you are. It's proven that for those who have a great relationship, the more unlikely you'll be to develop depression. Everyone needs a special someone inside their lives. If you produce a quality relationship, you're feeling prosperous. The higher you branch to have interaction with someone in this significant way, the happier you'll be. However, it ought to be the type of relationship that's good for you. It's important to understand what you're trying to find in a relationship. Therefore, you need to examine what you look for from your relationship. Ask for questions like, exactly what are your relationship goals? Do you want or desire outcomes for you and your partner to be more effective in several areas? Would you enjoy joining a couple which get along well with others, or sometimes you may feel the time is better spent with quality people? Do you want to build up somebody that likes to expand your circle of pals for business and personal reasons? And would you like help moving past your shyness? If any of these are true, next, make sure to determine the reasons you want these certain things within your relationship. Would you like to convey more fun from existence? Are you currently trying to guard yourself from feeling lonely? Could it be achievable that you would like to develop your individual confidence levels? You can add your own queries for the list, but before beginning adding to it, you have to probably try identifying the resolution to those first. The more apparent searching, the more you expect from your relationship. The greater effective your intentions would be to get this stuff happen to suit your needs. When a number of these things flow together, you'll realize you have the most effective relationship to suit your needs. Now it's time to relax and choose what you look for to accomplish within your relationship, as well as the causes of you. You just need to choose a particular target to begin with. Then, select how that will assist you in strengthening the bond that you might want within your existence. When you consider a positive outcome, that's what you'll get in your relationship. Chapter 5. The Nervous Sweats. Ever notice how fast your heart beats before you stand up to make a speech? How about right before you go in for that kiss? And further down the line, the butterflies and perm smile that simply thinking about a lover can induce. The release of epinephrine, or adrenaline, is the culprit here. Adrenaline is tied to your fight or flight nervous system and technically serves to assist you in either battling a hungry bear or running for the nearest tree. Of course, these days, it mostly serves to inconveniently remind us of situations we're uncomfortable or uncertain about, excited or thrilled about, and feel nervous and anxious about. Most importantly, it's a homing beacon to us that we're interested in someone. We're all too familiar with the effects that adrenaline has on our body, and they're not generally beneficial. So why should your goal be to increase the release of adrenaline? Human psychology dictates that when people are in any sort of emotional state, they seek justification for their condition. So, if they're aroused, anxious, and thrilled with adrenaline, they'll attempt to mentally label the reason. In other words, if you get your date's heart racing on at least a semi-regular basis, She will attribute the causation to you. A chemistry is born. Confidence isn't some mysterious trick that you acquire by trekking hours through the jungle to find a questionable mystic who lives in a swamp and imbues you with a special power. It's something that everyone can attain if you're brave enough to fake it till you can't tell the difference between the confidence you're exuding and the confidence you have. Maybe faking is too strong a word. You're not tricking anyone into your web of lies by tweaking your body language and the way you communicate in order to come across a little more self-assured. Loads of dating sites set out confidence as some distant, far-off mecca of a trait that some people are just born with and others have to spend years working up to. Sure, if you're lucky enough to feel naturally confident anyway, then that's a plus. But learning to feel confident is only about tweaking how other people interpret you, as opposed to changing something integral about yourself. You don't have to make up grand experiences, jobs, or hobbies to seem confident. And then, of course, you have to establish the difference between confidence and arrogance. Think of it this way. Confidence is being comfortable in your own skin enough so that you aren't able to listen to and take on other people's experiences and opinions. Arrogance is the precise opposite. It's insecurity masquerading as total confidence, an excuse for an alpha type to ignore what everyone else is saying because they've just had the greatest thought that you have to hear. Like right now. Confidence good, arrogance catastrophically bad. That's all you really have to remember. So, with that covered, how exactly do you exude confidence to potential lady companions? Let's get one thing straight. Right now, confidence does not equal arrogance. While some people do like the swaggering, overly arrogant population who prefer nothing to the sound of their own voice, you're not likely to get very far with that unless you're bellowing your opinions to someone over the sound of club music and 4 drinks. The first thing you need to do to give off that confident vibe is take a look at yourself in the mirror, no matter what your general aversion to reflective surfaces. Most of us don't realize that we tend to draw into ourselves with our body language all the time without even noticing that we're doing it. Focus on your body language to begin with. Stand up as tall as is comfortable. Stand without crossing your legs and avoid fiddling with whatever you got at hand. If you look happy and comfortable with your own thoughts, you're more likely to attract someone who would like to hear those thoughts as well. If you feel unnatural and uncomfortable standing and acting differently, focus on a few actions that you associate with confidence. Maybe straightening your shoulders, and carry out those actions when you feel like you need to exude a bit of come and get it. Find a balance that makes you look confident and comfortable. Okay, so now you look the part. At a glance, you're the most confident person in the room. What's next? Approaching women doesn't have to be cheesy or creepy. Shooting her a sexy smile after you send a drink to her table could go either way, and having a strong sense of confidence will help. Confident people don't need to fill entire conversations with babble about them and their achievements. They're happy to listen. Bear in mind that you're not trying to prove anything to the women you meet. Whether it's proving that you're worth hooking up with, or even going on a few dates with, as soon as you can eradicate the expectation of a certain goal, you'll be able to relax. Nervousness is the enemy of confidence, and if you've got one specific end game in your head, you'll find yourself subconsciously or consciously working toward it. And goal orientation only really works for business retreats and self-help seminars. Keep it out of your dating life at all costs. Confidence is often boiled down to total, unwavering belief that everything you do is excellent. Now, I'm not saying that's a terrible thing, but there's a chance that you don't think everything you've ever done is the most interesting or scintillating conversation starter in the universe. A lot of people panic that they're too boring or awkward to maintain a conversation with someone they like the look of, and that's a fallacy. The reason that so many dating guides and coaches stress confidence is because it seeps into every part of your dating experience. It's not just confidence in how you look and dress, but in your personality and your ability to be liked by other people. Claiming that you're too dull to make a connection with someone else, or even quietly believing it, is utterly silly, and all comes down to what you choose to talk about. Passion feeds into confidence, and if you're passionate about something, whether it's politics, your work, or just the latest episode of The Walking Dead, it will come through in your conversation about those topics. Look, the chances of meeting someone with your exact interests are slim. But that doesn't mean you can share your fascinations with them and they can share theirs with you. Confidence is also the ability to let someone share their thoughts and feelings with you in a non-judgmental way. If you're confident, you aren't worried that what someone else thinks or feels will affect you in a profound or ground-shattering way. You can handle other people's opinions, and you aren't afraid to challenge them with your own. Confidence comes through in your conversation, not just the way you hold yourself. And being able to express yourself concisely and in an informed way is the hallmark of someone confident. One last thing. Avoid the dreaded babble at all costs. A good way to promote a confident aura is to pick your battleground. I stress metaphorical battleground. You'll automatically feel a bit more relaxed and at ease if you know your surroundings and feel comfortable there. If you can't afford to open a bar in your living room for maximum home turf advantage, scout out a few places around your town. For some people, clubbing is the perfect way to meet new people, and they feel most at home drinking, dancing, and hanging out with whoever's there. For others, a quiet bar with some secluded booths where you can get into a heated debate without drawing too much attention to your very important opinions makes more sense. If you're unsure, grab some friends and head out on a no-pressure adventure where you can find a likely-looking place to meet new people. If bars and clubs aren't really your scene, find a local group that matches your interests and see what's going on there. The main thing is that you find an environment where talking to new people is the only thing you're really focusing on, as opposed to panicking over the price of the drinks or whether or not the bouncer will let you in. Similarly, take away other factors that might impact your ability to kick back and relax for an evening. Make sure your transport is covered and know how much you're able to spend. Give yourself a leg up so you won't be feeling anxious about running out of cash for a taxi, so you can focus on feeling great. A final word on confidence. It's not something that comes easy to people who are stressed about having it or not. If you find yourself becoming conscious of how confident you're coming across, take a breath and try to forget it, and facilitating a nice time for the people you're with. Basically, confidence comes easily to people who aren't panicked about being the biggest personality in the room. And once you let go of the desire to make the biggest impression you can, which would almost undoubtedly have been a negative one after all, your confidence will grow. The last thing you want is to come across as insincere, so let the confidence grow naturally from how you are as a person. Yes, it sounds cheesy as hell, but don't aim to be someone else. Short of being a serial killer, what's the worst that could happen? Chapter 6. Other Goodies. Pheromones remain somewhat of a physiological Bigfoot, but it cannot be denied that we simply prefer some people's scents to others. They have been hypothesized to be an invisible signal that mammals use to screen for genetic compatibility between potential mates, and a compatible pheromone may even sexually arouse the smeller. What does this mean to you? Smell is a much greater part of chemistry and mating than most people realize. Act and shower accordingly. Finally, endorphins, our biggest motivation for going to the gym. Endorphins are a neurotransmitter that is released after engaging in activities you enjoy, such as sex, exercise, singing, etc. It induces feelings of happiness and security. They function like an opioid and are addictive by nature. Chapter 7. The Chemistry Principles. Now that we've nailed the basics of the biological basis of love, let's explore the chemistry principles that operate on them, among other factors. The overarching theme and purpose of these chemistry principles is to take our biological and psychological functions and turn them into actionable steps that every man can use to his advantage in any situation. Most importantly, I'll provide realistic examples that you can use tonight. A chemistry principle will fall into one of three categories: mindset, interactions, and communication. These are the three main elements that drive chemistry at any stage of a relationship, and therefore the most important for us to learn about. The mindset chemistry principles concern how you view yourself and, subsequently, how that affects your interactions with women. They teach you how to be the type of man that a woman wants chemistry with. The interactions chemistry principles might be the biggest reason you bought this book. Through many specific examples, you'll see exactly what to do and where to take her to create a powerful bond with any woman. Your interactions and dates will never be the same. The communication chemistry principles are no less important than the other two. The way you communicate is an offering that a woman may or may not accept. You'll learn how to use any form of communication to your advantage. It's unfair to generalize an entire gender. Different chemistry principles will resonate with different women, but having all 20 in your belt will make you more reactive than the nuclei in nuclear fission. It's a book about chemistry, so I had to get one chemistry joke in. Gentlemen, let's learn how to hack a woman's emotions. Chapter 8. Chemistry Principle Number 1. Bold dates heighten emotion. This is chemistry principle number 1 for a reason. It's an all-encompassing general and more theoretical point that merits its own mention. Emotions that trigger the biology of love are powerful and your overall goal. And a bold date capitalizes on that. The bolder you can make your date, the more fondly she'll think back on it. What woman doesn't want to be caught in the moment and swept off her feet? It's also helpful to start the chemistry principles off here because it introduces the general mindset that you want to cultivate with women. Chemistry begins and ends with the spiking of emotional responses and bonds. So, you want the operative emotions regarding your date to be shock, awe, wonderment, ecstasy, irrationality, joy, and above all, fun. On dating shows, essentially every episode is punctuated by a helicopter or African safari date. This is usually followed by an equally ridiculous activity, which leads the woman barely being able to catch her breath amidst the amazement. Her mind is so blown that she can't help but be entranced by the man who provided that experience. Obviously, these are going to be impossible to replicate for a number of reasons. But there are some very doable alternatives and ways you can get the same reaction. Remember that boldness is in the eye of the beholder. You need to be careful to ensure that she will actually enjoy what you're presenting to her, and that it will objectively wow her. Finally, through bold dates that will inherently involve elements of physical activity and thrill, remember that bold dates can also be quieter. Bonus if they're a bold activity that you can take the lead in or teach her. Examples: 1. Skydiving. 2. Bungee jumping. 3. Whitewater rafting. 4. Urban exploring at night. 5. Sneaking into a closed building or park. 6. Creating art together by finger or body painting. 7. Riding ATVs in the desert. 8. Jet skiing. 9. Renting a boat. 10. Rock climbing. 11. Getting ridiculed at a comedy show in the front row. 12. Ziplining. 13. Scavenger hunt with a list of clues personal to her. 14. A shooting range. What she'll think.
This date is so crazy. He's so thoughtful, daring, and unique. I can't believe he thought of this. I can't wait to tell my friends.
Chapter 9. Chemistry Principle Number 2. Spontaneity is king. Hey, let's go into that store and adopt a cactus together. Spontaneity creates an effect where you appear like a laundry list of adjectives that women love: dominant, in control, adventurous, lighthearted, and fun. It's one of the best bang for your buck chemistry principles because of the emotional spikes involved. Fortunately, as it turns out, spontaneity is most about appearances rather than true spontaneity. You wouldn't go into a big date without a plan. You'd have a plan with multiple options and paths, and your contingency plans would have contingency plans. So the point here is to go into the date with a few spontaneous activities and interjections planned for later based on where you'll be and how it's going. Hell, sometimes your emergency plans can appear spontaneous if you pull it off. Spontaneity is all about being or appearing to be willing to deviate from a set plan and just letting loose and allowing fun to rule the day. You're in the moment and just enjoying her company, which will encourage her to do the same. It also instantly adds an element of novelty and excitement which can only work for you. Indecision is the bane of spontaneity, so once you make a choice, stick with it. You should also take charge with any spontaneous detours. Otherwise, it can turn into a debate about what to do, the opposite of spontaneity, and decidedly unattractive. Practice tip: next time you hang out with your friends and walk by something interesting or funny, stop the group and take a picture with it. Really convince them and don't just do it begrudgingly. This will condition you to the type of energy, body language, and excitement you must show for this chemistry principle to work. Examples: 1. Movie hopping. 2. Eating different courses of a meal at different restaurants. Appetizer, entree, dessert. 3. Date segmentation. See the next chemistry principle. 4. Climbing a tree in your path. 5. Visiting the SPCA after driving by it. 6. Buying a pet fish or plant for her, or for both of you. 7. Last minute anything. 8. Going swimming in the beach after walking by it. 9. Heads or tails decisions. 10. Building a basket fort in your apartment before watching a movie. 11. Buying a disposable camera at the store and playing with it. 12. Buying Nerf guns at a store. 13. Chalking up a sidewalk. 14. Experimenting with Mentos and Diet Coke. 15. Restaurant roulette. What she'll think.
He is so adventurous and creative. I can't believe he went all around the city tonight. Any date with him would be an absolute blast. He keeps me on my toes.
Chapter 10. Chemistry Principle Number 3. Movement and logistics are essential. Plan the date in segments with natural ending points, which will allow you to bail early if you so wish. But if you like her and the feeling is mutual, then you can proceed with the subsequent segment in your logistics plan, which you have arranged before the date. Do not tell her about the segments beforehand, as the idea is to make them seem spontaneous and fun in the name of spending more time with her. This is an easy process. You've clearly already set up an activity that she agreed to for your initial date. So now, it's time to do a little bit of support research. Before you go on your date, make sure you have the following easily accessible in your head. 1. What are the 2 nearby venues you can go to after the initial date activity? Bar, tapas restaurant, lounge, your place, a park with swings, a scenic view, etc. 2. What are 2 nearby actual activities you can do after the initial date activity? Karaoke, a walk, stroll, scenic view with a bottle of wine, billiards, bowling, biking, etc. If the first segment went well, proceed to the next, and so on. For an optimal date, I would recommend trying to complete 3 segments total. It keeps things moving, helps conversation, makes you seem knowledgeable and spontaneous, and creates more opportunity for flirting. It's also a great barometer into how she feels about you. If she keeps agreeing to go on to the next date segment, it's usually a very telling sign. Other things to plan for include 3. Proximity to public transport and your apartment. 4. How familiar are you with the area? Get familiar. 5. Are you likely to run into people you know while out? In most cases, this is a plus. 6. Do you know the owners of any establishments? This is a major plus. 7. Can you showcase any skills or talents during any of the activities? For example, if you can sing, subtly suggest karaoke. What she'll think.
That date felt like 3 full dates, and they were all great. I really got to know him, and it never got slow or lagged. He really knows this area, and I was having such a ball.
Chapter 11. Chemistry Principle Number 4. You are the CEO of the interaction. Even if you're dating a woman who is a high-powered CEO, chances are she doesn't want to be in control of your relationship. In fact, it's a good bet that she wants the exact opposite. There are exceptions to the rule, but many, if not most women, are completely fine satisfying the gender role of wanting to be taken care of. It's hard to do that if she's making all the decisions and directing your interactions. So be the dominant man that she wants to sweep her off her feet. If you act that way, you'll project the confidence and masculinity she desires. And just as importantly, the dominant man doesn't stay mired in insecurity. On the surface level, some might call it chivalry, but that's a different mindset completely. Here, you are taking control of the interaction simply because you are the type of man to do so, not out of respect or deference to her. This means that indecision is one of the most unattractive traits possible. The following type of exchange is strictly forbidden. What do you want to do? Eat, see next. I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't care. Practice tip. Plan the next outing for you and your friends. Take care of all the planning details, the hiccups, dealing with waiters, splitting the check, renting the home, and controlling the guest list. This will let you know exactly what's needed for such an event or date, and will give you experience and confidence in your abilities to take control. It will also make you more comfortable with potential confrontation when you have to fix or remedy a situation on a date. However, note that there is a canyon of distinction between taking charge of the interaction and being one of the guys that will carry her purse for her. Take care of her, but don't cater to her. I like to utilize what I call the groan test. If you can tell your male friends about something you did for her and their reaction is groaning, then you are probably catering to her too much. What she'll think,
Wow, he took care of everything. He makes me feel safe and taken care of. He's a man's man, and I see him as my equal. I have to step up my game.
Chapter 12, Chemistry Principle Number 5. The activity is the star. I have a strong opinion on what constitutes a good and a bad date. My opinion on the worst date of all? Dates composed of simply sitting and talking. Of course, this points to a dinner or lunch date. Many situations call for an exception, but as a general rule, I would only do a meal on a date as part of a date segment or as a spontaneous act. My reasoning is that this inevitably forces people into interview mode, which is a wholly inorganic way of conversation. So you know Doug? Yeah, we went to school together. Oh, cool. So you know Brittany then? Nope. Oh, I see. And so on. Think about how you started getting to know your best friends. It was almost certainly through a shared activity or interest, where you happened to converse naturally in the context of that activity or interest. There was little to no pressure to talk, which makes conversation flow more smoothly, organically, and tends to avoid the interview questions that plague many dates. The solution to avoid an interview is an activity that takes the front stage of the date, which will decrease the pressure on continual conversation and let you two converse as nature intended. When the focus of a conversation is not the other person, the focus will be on having fun, comfort, rapport, and chemistry. The activity still has to leave room for conversation, though, so it can't be an overly loud, active, or public in the sense that there will be many other people to interact with. Activity. Activity dates are also extremely easy to tie into endgames, which I address later in Chemistry Principle number 16. Examples: 1. Mini golf. 2. Driving range. 3. Cooking class. 4. Cooking dinner together. 5. Gardening. 6. Hiking. 7. Biking. 8. Trivia nights. 9. Painting class. 10. Canoeing. 11. Working out together. 12. Building picture frames. 13. Karaoke bar or private karaoke room. 14. Painting pictures of each other with crayons. 15. Bowling. 16. Billiards. 17. Playing with fake tattoos. 18. Chalking up a sidewalk. 19. Making terrariums. 20. Go-kart racing. Ah, flirting. The sport of kings, the pastime of renegade princes with too much time on their hands. Flirting is one of the sections of the dating scene which seems to be surrounded by mystery. Is she flirting with me? How do I know? Should I flirt back? And how the hell do I flirt in a way that won't come across as if I'm trying to lure her back to my cave lair? The truth is simple. Flirting's hard until you know how to do it. Some people are born with the inbuilt ability to utterly charm whoever they want. And they're the lucky few. For the rest of us, flirting presents somewhat of a minefield. So, what is flirting really? Flirting is the ability to communicate your interest in someone without having to write them a 10-page letter explaining your attraction. It can be subtle and nuanced, or as obvious as a sledgehammer crushing through a table. And there is no hard and fast rules to flirting in a way that guarantees that someone will like you back. You have to go with what's going on, feeling out the situation as you go, and seeing where your foray into flirting has taken you. The first thing you have to do to flirt effectively is to break the ice. You don't have to show a romantic interest straight off the bat. And let's be clear here that some women really don't appreciate having their body complimented by a stranger. Once you've seen someone who you think you might enjoy a chat with, look to see what kind of signals they're throwing out. Are they smiling, making eye contact with you, and standing in an open way? Head over for an approach. If they're in a tight group of people who they're engaging in intense conversation with, looking at their phone, or avoiding your gaze, maybe leave it for now. When you've identified someone who looks like they'd be up for a talk, don't spend too long deliberating over what to say or whether or not you're going to embarrass yourself in some previously unheard of way. Focus on this old adage: you literally have nothing to lose. You'll hear this repeated a lot by friends trying to egg you on to chat someone up. But think about it logically. What do you have to lose? If this person rejects you, doesn't want a conversation, or even just doesn't want to date you, the worst that you've done is have a conversation with someone new. The first few times you do this, you're bound to feel a little nervous, but strip away any expectations attached to the experience and go for it. The art of just going up to someone you like the look of is one that's been lost over the years, and most people will be pretty sympathetic to the fact that this kind of approach can be nerve-wracking and can make getting the words out in the right order slightly more difficult. Once you've done it once, it only gets easier. The actual way you approach someone is very important. If you've got a chat-up line or quirky introduction that you think works wonders on potential mates, be wary about using it. You don't have to jettison it completely, but cheesy lines can fall flat if they're delivered in the wrong way, or even just to the kind of person who wants to be introduced to someone new without a gimmick. Yes, it's going to be a tiny bit awkward for a while, but that's normal. Don't let it get under your skin, otherwise that's what the conversation will become defined by. So, you've successfully approached someone and the conversation's flowing. How do you know if you're getting flirted with? Again, focus on their body language. Go past the silly stuff like having their straw pointed in your direction, and focus on how they're responding to the conversation. Do they look interested? Are they asking questions and adding their own opinions into what's being said? Are they making regular eye contact and facing you fully? If so, you could have found yourself someone to practice your flirting expertise on. There's a long-running idea that you need to escalate flirting as you go along. From just talking to making casual physical contact to, well, whatever comes next. In simple terms, everyone responds to flirting differently, and assuming that you need to keep pushing for more intimacy is a mistake. Some people are more tactile and happy with regular physical contact. Others balk at the very thought of it. Flirting is an elaborate back and forth where no words are spoken but lots is negotiated. You have to roll with the punches, hopefully not literally, and treat each interaction as unique. Going in with a game plan is rarely going to work, as treating individuals as one homogeneous group doesn't work out well in general. If it seems right to be more physical with her, then go ahead. But people express interest in different ways. If you don't feel confident initiating casual contact, figure out other ways to express your interest in her. Drop a genuine compliment in the course of the conversation. For example, when you're flirting, you also need to give some credit to the person you're flirting with. Chances are that, if they like you and seem reasonably confident, they'll be unafraid to escalate things when the time is right. Now is the time to forget all the things you know about the attractiveness hierarchy. Put it out of your head that you're not good-looking enough for the very pretty woman at the bar, and ignore the voice in your head that says that this really smart, funny girl isn't your physical type. Flirting isn't about matching up the most obvious choices and sending them home together. It's about trying your luck and seeing how far good conversation will take you. Did you know that around 93% of our communication is nonverbal, according to studies? What that means for your flirting game is that you've got to focus a lot on what you're saying with your body language. This means you should be focused on the person you're talking to as opposed to glancing around the room trying to catch someone else's eye. Or the cardinal sin, playing with your phone. And don't be too stiff, and smile a permanent rictus grin isn't the best idea. But a po-faced stare is even worse. Keep your body language open, avoid crossing your arms or legs. And if you're feeling really brave, you can try mirroring some of her body language, essentially vaguely positioning your body in the same way as hers. While it can be understandably difficult to get the balance between expressing an interest in someone and putting them off by being too forward, try to avoid getting cynical about the delicate act of flirting. It's easy to think that because you've been knocked back a few times, flirting is an ultimately manipulative and useless way of communicating. But that does no good for anyone. Flirting is probably the most difficult part of the dating game, but it's also the most fun and rewarding. It's that not knowing that makes it so great. It's also good to know when to walk away. If it doesn't go well, acknowledge it and make your excuses. Chances are that your conversation partner is feeling the same way and won't mind you heading back to your friends for the evening. If this does happen, don't feel dejected, but maybe refrain from heading straight off and hitting on someone else, as this can look a bit tacky and like you're only out for one thing. If you're feeling particularly brave, you can crack a joke about your failed attempts at flirting to the person you were trying to flirt with, and see if they fancy continuing to chat in a platonic way, if you think they seem way too cool to get rid of. And one last thing, forget that nice guys finish last nonsense. This preconception that seems to have followed us through generations of moping is just a silly one. Jerks don't always get the girl because every woman likes something different. Depending on the situation, self-deprecation and being able to laugh at yourself are far more attractive qualities than being super arrogant. Don't mix arrogance with confidence. Confidence is a good thing. Arrogance is usually an annoying one. Don't feel the need to put on the bad boy girl facade when you're approaching a woman for the first time. What she'll think.
That date was so fun, and the conversation was so easy. He's such a great guy, and I really felt like we got to know each other well. No awkward pauses.
Chapter 13, Chemistry Principle Number 6. Interviews are for talking heads. A talking head is an interview a TV character has with an interviewer off camera where they provide commentary about their thoughts and feelings. A date, that is not. Conversation is the cornerstone to any date and, really, relationship. You can have the boldest, most exciting date, but if your conversation lags and you can't effectively make conversation, any chemistry you've created will quickly fade, and you'll be a 2-date wonder at best. Well, a 3-date wonder if you're rich. Selecting a subject that will garner good rapport will be a good starting point. A subject that enables both sides for connecting and connect with one another would certainly be considered a champion. When there's an apparent connection, the sun and rain of trust and friendship could begin. Selecting a subject that's unique, however, that the person is definitely an authority on will assist you to impress the date enough to obtain the other party asking them questions and therefore assisting to keep your conversation going. However, caution ought to be exercised here to guarantee the subject is interesting to the other party too, otherwise monotony is more prone to occur. It will help to produce a little mystery and excitement for that evening, to give out information that may then become another avenue for discussion. This may be a good ploy because it produces the component of being impressed the other party is caring enough to want to consider the data shared. Additionally, it offers the ideal platform for that other party to become psychologically dedicated to the conversation content, thus really having to pay attention to what's being stated. When the component of comfort continues to be clearly expressed and it is apparent, the conversation may take on the sexual position. However, this must only be introduced if it's clearly apparent that the other party is available to this type of possibility. Topics to avoid. Talking about past associations and partners is indeed a no-no. This could finish up intimidating another party and definitely makes them feel totally uncomfortable indeed. Nobody wants to stay in a situation where there's possibility to be in comparison to another person, especially if it's not in a favorable light. Talking about sex can also be something to become prevented on the first date because this will instantly place the other party on alert mode and effectively create an unpleasant and defensive mind and body aura. Speaking about sex around the first date is only going to show the individual as having a one-track mind, which can put someone off for someone who's thinking about creating a relationship that's not only according to sex. Speaking about politics and religion is all right if it may be completed in an easy and non-judgmental way. Generally, this really is rather impossible, therefore, it might be far better to avoid these subjects, lest the date become a disagreement. Almost everyone has quite strong feelings about these two subjects, and therefore are frequently very occur their awareness, and then any make an effort to change these awarenesses or ideas is going to be met with probable contempt and disdain. Talking about improper habits is most likely probably the most disgusting and off-putting subject to choose for any discussion throughout an initial date. It's much more disgusting when the individual talking about the concerning habit is definitely an actual specialist of it. The most commonplace way that a conversation drags is when it turns into a job interview. See earlier for an example. It's characterized by jumping from topic to topic, staying on a surface level with all topics, and fishing for superficial commonalities that might not even be there. We do this all the time at cocktail parties with people we are just meeting and anticipate talking to for only that night. Isn't that the only reason you ask Juan where he's from or where he went to college? But for a date, you've got to dig deeper and really strive to make a connection. The way you do this is not apparent to most people, so here are a few helpful guidelines. 1. A recent 2013 study showed that on a first date, both men and women had a better time when the focus of the conversation was on the woman. What does this mean for you? People like to talk about themselves, especially to people who show genuine interest in them. Be that person, so keep the focus on her and don't dominate the conversation. 2. Don't jump from topic to topic. Ask why and how questions to dig deeper on the current one. 3. Avoid heavy topics such as religion and politics. If you get on those topics, don't judge or debate her. 4. Learn to have great reactions. For instance, when to laugh, roll your eyes, smile, gasp, and so on. 5. Don't fight breaks or silences in the conversation. Let them happen and embrace the ensuing tension. Scrambling to fill a silence usually comes off as unconfident. 6. Don't rely on close-ended who, what, when, or where questions. 7. Instead of asking questions at all, first share about yourself and your stories, observations, and daily struggles. I had the craziest day today. 8. Learn what active listening is and use it. 9. Focus on commonalities that involve feelings, outlooks, and hobbies, not superficial ones like geography and mutual friends. Practice tip. Invite a friend over for dinner. Make it your goal to find out absolutely everything about your friend and talk as little as possible except for digging questions. Try to hear their best and worst stories. You'll find out how to create a line of questioning about topics you previously had no idea about, and which questions and tones are comfortable for you to use. What she'll think.
I felt like we had known each other for years. He's so charming and genuinely interested in getting to know me. I felt so comfortable and secure with him.
Chapter 14, Chemistry Principle Number 7. Eye contact is napalm. What's that saying, that eyes are the windows to the soul? Similarly, the eye contact you use is the window to your masculinity. The way you use eye contact is going to tell a woman how confident you are, how you feel about her, how interested you are in her, and whether you're an insecure or dominant man. Typically, the more the better, and this is an area where I highly suggest people fake it till they make it. For practice, try making eye contact with strangers on the street. Once you lock eyes, don't pull away immediately. They likely will break first, and you'll be surprised at how empowering and confident it makes you feel. Now apply this feeling to your interactions with women, and you'll understand just what you've been missing out on. Practice tip: next time you go outside, put sunglasses on and try making eye contact with strangers. Now that you can stare with impunity, you'll notice how many people completely avoid eye contact and how many people break it nervously after a quick glance, even though they can't see your eyes. However, don't stare at her like a moth at a light bulb. And remember, there are times when the lack of eye contact is also potent. Imagine how you'd feel if someone's eyes started darting around behind you while you were talking. Were you talking too much? Is she bored, or am I being boring or too weird? How can I get her eye contact back? Eye contact, like much body language, can make points very succinctly if done correctly. The lack of eye contact doesn't necessarily have to indicate anxiety. It can also show boredom, which can be powerful. What she'll think.
I love the way he makes and holds eye contact with me. It really connects me. He's so confident and doesn't shy away from me. His gaze gives me goosebumps.
Chapter 15, Chemistry Principle Number 8. If eye contact is napalm, touch is nuclear. Friends don't kiss each other. Friends don't put their arms around their friends' waists. And friends don't hold each other's hands. So, if you want to be more than a friend, shouldn't you make an effort to do those things sooner rather than later? Here's a dirty little secret about the friend zone. You're only going to end up there if a woman is simply not attracted to you physically, or if you repulse her otherwise. If you don't fall into either of those categories, and you smartly utilize touch and some other chemistry principles, you will always be in the hunt. Touch is perhaps the bedrock of the biological basis of love theory. Skin-to-skin contact literally causes the release of hormones and hearts to race. That intoxicating rush when you get close enough to smell someone's hair or brush fingertips, oh yeah. It also has the beneficial side effect of planting a mental seed and making them think about you in a sexual manner. After that thought enters their mind, it's just going to make them want more next time. Finally, a man who isn't afraid to touch knows what he wants and possesses confidence. Notice the running theme of confidence so far? There are so many potential pitfalls here that I will just implore you to adhere to the following guidelines. 1. Less is more. If you only give her a little bit, she'll feel teased and want much more. 2. Is she still hanging out with you and laughing at your bad jokes? That's as good as a green light as you're going to get. 3. Don't let the first date pass without touch. 4. Don't ask her for permission. 5. In many cases, it is easier to touch from the side. Facing each other straight on is more likely to create and violate a personal bubble, whether she realizes it or not. 6. Set the tone early on that you are a touchy person. If you aren't, learn to be. 7. Read her response like a flow chart. If she seems comfortable, escalate to more touching. Note that instead of verbally asking whether she wants to hug, hold hands, or even kiss, you're essentially asking her physically by doing it and moving forward. This is a much stronger and more confident move. Examples. 1. Touching the small of her back while walking next to or behind her. 2. Playfully hip bumping or pushing her while walking. 3. High-fiving. 4. Pulling her legs on top of yours while you sit next to her. 5. Playing with her hair while sitting next to her. 6. Pretending to read her palm. 7. Pulling her close by her belt loops or neck in a loud environment so you can hear each other. 8. Grabbing her hand if you're rushing. 9. Offering to show your new talent of massage. 10. Playfully flexing your muscles and comparing to hers. 11. Buttoning, zipping up her jacket for her. 12. Trapping her under a blanket by wrapping her like a burrito. 13. Lifting and throwing her into the air if she says something particularly funny or agreeable. 14. Pretending to pull and hold her back before crossing a street. 15. Helping her put on her coat. 16. Scooting close to her and putting your arm around her while looking at a menu together. As you can see, most of these are much more subtle ways of touch that will allow you to gauge her reaction and determine if you can move to the next step. Everyone knows how to kiss and put their arms around someone, but the subtle and flirty methods are much harder to learn and essentially pave the way for bigger gestures. Practice tip: try some of the examples on your female friends. There's a 99.9% chance that they will have absolutely no problem with most of them. You'll learn that females don't mind touch and indeed may crave it, which is a powerful realization. You'll also learn to push your boundaries and become comfortable with being a more touch person, which is almost perceived as confident. What she'll think.
I liked the way he touched me. He was flirty and subtle, and didn't go overboard or make me uncomfortable. I left wanting more. I hope he tries to kiss me next time.
Chapter 16, Chemistry Principle Number 9. Roll out the red carpet, sometimes. It never fails. Every season, The Bachelor will surprise a woman with a ludicrous date, like being in a Broadway production of Lion King. And she is sent into mad giggles of, "Are you serious?" I would probably giggle too. But for those of us who don't have Broadway producers on speed dial, there are still steps you can take to roll out the red carpet for a woman and put a special touch on a date that will make her feel special and highly desired. This chemistry principle is not about spending a certain amount of money, rather about demonstrating your thoughtfulness and effort in how you treat a woman. If you can pull off a red carpet gesture in public, that's another bonus. If a woman likes flowers, she'll love getting them in front of others, especially other women, even if they're all strangers. However, this is a principle that is often approached the wrong way. There's a thin line between putting a personal touch on a date that shows that you put some special effort in and pandering to her and spoiling her like a chump might. Hence the qualifier sometimes, which is to say that you want to be unpredictable in showing her special attention, which will allow you to keep surprising her time after time. Psychological studies have proven that inconsistent rewards yield the most anticipation and the greatest subsequent satisfaction. So be the guy that makes her want more. Another pitfall is a red carpet gesture that falls short or isn't altogether that special, like a generic red rose. It's certainly positive. Once again, the groan test rears its ugly head. If you tell a female friend about your proposed gesture and her reaction is a big fat groan, then your gesture simply falls short. Finally, this is a chance to show her that you have the ability, or the appearance of, to pull some strings and make things happen. Power, or the illusion of power, is always a bonus. Examples. 1. Getting a custom menu at a restaurant. Most things custom, really. 2. Being greeted by a restaurant's chef. 3. Being greeted by a ball player at a game. 4. Backstage VIP anything. 5. Requesting a special song to come on the speakers. 6. Hijacking the PA system to make an announcement. 7. Having the restaurant staff sing for her. 8. Throw up a website blog dedicated to an inside joke you have with her. This is surprisingly easy and cheap if you use WordPress and GoDaddy. 9. Spelling out a message for her with Christmas lights around her neighborhood. 10. Getting a 4-string quartet to play during dinner. 11. Scavenger hunt with clues personal to her. 12. Organizing a surprise party for her with her friends. 13. Cooking her a 3-course dinner. The common thread here is that they are things not necessarily done by you, but by third parties that you orchestrate. Gestures that come through other channels just seem more significant because it implies, as mentioned, power. This is precisely the reason why singing-grams are a thing. What she'll think.
He really pulled out all the stops for me. He knows how to treat women, and he'll definitely treat me right. And so sweet of him.